Welcome. This is Crimey Queen. If you are joining us for the first time, this is the channel where we get excited about love. This is where we ignite that which dwells from within us, that which comes alive, makes us smile, makes us laugh. Hence, we say the crimson light is life. So, the crimson light is our journey to actualizing self-love. We have been doing exercises and understanding the function of the number 9. So, with number 9, we have been looking at number 9 with with the view or with the understanding that it's the number of newness. It's the number of that which births newness. Hence, it is a number that has shown in that in that number 13 that comes under the two column where Christ had the Last Supper with the disciples. This would be the column of agreement. This would be the column of where the washing of feet, the breaking of bread, and the drinking of wine, that was the column right here. This was the column of agreement. Of course, it is now said, of course, after the Passover, after Christ, the resurrection, when you are in Christ, you are a new creature. So we see that newness, as I have said, comes into that direct, that direct location or function with where Mother Eve ate of the fruit, that and her eye was open. There she gave to her husband. We see that new state is here. Number 6, we see the elation. We see the journey of Mother Eve in Revelation right here. So it's like Eve, and we see the L, the feet, and it's going up. We could have this understanding of the pattern of that journey that took place here. That would be the pattern of the journey with Revelation. That equals 13. That's where one comes from the east, you could say, and go to the west. Hence, it is said this is the beginning. 9 is the beginning. And when we do east, of course, the word is equals 9. But Revelation uncovers. So that's what happens here. Hence, we see the 4. 13 comes to 4. And if we were to work around here, we see how 9 also comes under that R, as it were a new beginning or a new cycle, where one becomes oriented with the north, south, east, and west. Okay, so that's developmental street. That's where the fruit was eaten. That's where the decision was made to eat of the fruit. That's where the eye became open. That's where one becomes illuminated and goes on this and realizes that's a journey here. That what because one has become impregnated with the 6, you could say. Of course, that is a representation of Christ or God had deposited everything within us here. Impregnated. The foxes is impregnated here. So we see E is that which represents Eve. But the word eat or past tense, ate, is right here in the middle of that function. This is why I say that Christ's teaching was really a way of teaching us to re-establish our relationship with Eve right here. Okay, and of course, when we study through numerology the teachings of Christ, we then see that Eve and Christ comes into the same equation here. So with that teaching, I want to explore another thing that we learn from Matthew of the New Testament, M-A-T-T, M-A-T-T, Matthew. Mathew. Okay, because Matthew was one of the disciples, and of course, what I have discovered that when we do the numerical value for Matthew, which is 41228, and it's as if Mother Eve is present here again, and the W, which I say the W is like an M, it's like a 3, it's like an E, and it's this is M and this is W. So we see here that's the 8 that forms that wholeness of when Eve ate of the fruit. So let's just leave it like this for now. So this is 5. 5 and 5, 10, 20, and 7 is 27. 2 plus 7 equals 9. So Matthew is 9. Okay. Now what I saw that I felt was, is this again, I have to say divinely done, because I have to take myself as an example, coming up with this sacrifice template and realizing that inland and revenue, and for a lot of the words that I have done on this template coincides with the number, like I think gypsy or gypsy journey coincides with number 7. So a lot of those I have done. I have done a video on intuitive templates, so you can take a look at that and see the correlation of how this was developed, the template. So we could say there were great minds and divine intervention. We've seen that Matthew, as the first book of the New Testament, the first book, but Matthew equals 9. Now, the other thing, because I have just made that reference as well, Matthew was a tax collector. The word tax equals 9. We have done that. Inland revenue was 9. So I'm thinking this is really the coincidences that fall into play here is really amazing. So the other book of the Old Testament, which I have done presentations on, which is Job. When we do the numerical value for Job, which is 162, that equals 9. Now, Job is positioned as the 18th book of the Old Testament. So 18, when we add 1 plus 8 together, 1 plus 8, that equals 9. So I believe that there are messages, particularly in the book of Job, which a lot of people have studied, but it is in relation to that which we call a rapture. It is very related to that teaching of getting us to learn how to have this introspection and reflection of who we truly are. Of course, 9, if we were to turn 9 upside down, which we have seen, that impregnation where that falls in that direct correlation with Mother Eve right here, and that 6 here. And in the 3 columns or 3 brackets, we see how that 6 shows up. We also see 6 shows up as when we do the numerical value for the word 9. Let's do this here. So N-I-N-E. When we do this, which is 5, 5, 9, 5, 5, and there's always magic where there's lots of 5s. So 3 5s, this is 10, 19, 24. 2 plus 4 equals 6. So we can see this is where I have also made records or videos of this. I say recording. Oh, it sounds like music. Perhaps it is. Okay. And of 6 equally, this we see how 6 becomes 9 and 9 becomes 6. Okay. Basically, we see the sense of wholeness here. I have also done presentations that show how the 8 is really where that symbol is, where there is a, because 8 is really a circle that is twisted. I usually make the reference of a rubber band that is twisted. We see this where people, you just drop it on the table and it gets twisted, yet still it is whole. And that's what we are. But all the patterns or the numbers are patterns of the functions that that depicts the movement of where we are at any given stage. And here we see, of course, there could be a twisting that goes like this, and of course, where two are laid, or the two ends are laid together, of course, that would be 9. So we see how 9, 8 becomes 9. That is that birthing. 8, excuse me, it is on movement. It is not remaining set anymore. There are two functions to it, where it is whole, but there is movement in it. It's as if there is a movement that is still going endlessly, and that's what we are. Of course, we are infinite beings. So, what I felt was very interesting here. So, in the New Testament, we see Job, and there was also another aspect to Job. Job had 14 sons and 6 daughters. So we see here there is another thing that I felt was conveying a message very profound, in that Mother Eve's presence, or Christ, was still there. So in Matthew tells us about the genealogy of Christ. When we do the numerical value for Christ, it equals 5, of course. Now, when we go through the genealogy or generation, we understand that there's a generation. Let's go through here. The word generation, let's look at that. Generation. Okay, for counting sake, I have done 22, and this is 10, 15, 10, 20, 25, 32. So this is 32. So this is 5. 5 plus 4, 4 here equals 9. Okay, so we see generation is 9. So generation but is that which births newness. And here so this is what I mean about the number 8 is set. A generation is set. It is 8, it is whole, but there is movement in it that births newness for the next generation to come about. Hence 9 in the word generation. Okay. So it is whole, it is complete, but it births newness for the next generation. Okay. And so Christ also came from a lineage. Before I move on to that, Job having 14 sons. So we see in the story of Job, I'm trying to show how there is the beginning and the end had been a story that was there to help us focus on the essence or the moral of the teaching that would also bring into play or bring the picture of the presence of mother that nurtures. Okay, so, and he had 14 daughters. Daughers. Okay, so this is 4, 1, 3. I hadn't done this, well, not on this scale. Let's see, 2, 5, 9, 1. So this is 10, 20, 30, 35, 40. So we see here daughters is really 40. Okay, so it's really 4. Now 4, we have attributed 4 to the west, to that to the evening, to the word way, to the word west. And if yes, so 4 comes here, and he had he had 6 sons. So there we had 5, so that would be 5 plus, so he had 14 daughters. The word daughters has the energy of 4, so 4 plus 5, or 5 plus 4 equals 9. So we are seeing that that was a beginning. Okay, so that's what he had. And he had 6 sons, sons. So that's 1, 5, 6, 1. So that is 12 and 1, 13. We see how 13 is showing up. Showing up now. This is the thing that I am really enjoying, and I am going to continue to say this. I believe numerology is offering a delicious way of understanding the scriptures, really. So 13 here, the sons, of course, Christ at the table with the 12 disciples. They were all male. We learned that they were all, you could say, sons, with Christ being 13. We could see this is where the agreement was formed as well. But 1 plus 3 is still 4. 4 plus 6 is 10. This is 10. This is where we have the pureness or the polarities or whatever is whatever. So there was 14, and of course, if we were to add the 6 sons, that would be 20 children he had. We know 20 is that which you plant, 20 is the south, 20 is that you pitch, 20 is where you are grounded, 20 is really 11. Is 11 when you add 1 and 1 together as well, so it's that 2. So that is the Jesus spirit. Okay, and so we see how daughters, the word daughters and the word sons really come up to the same. So it's that we could say, and we see 4 plus 4 is 8. And that's what I mean about the wholeness. Basically, all of this was to really teach us that Job had 8. He had 8. He had the 14 daughters and the 6 sons, but the words daughters and sons really come to 8. And that is the same correlation with Adam and Eve when they ate. Comes right here, 8. This is the I, and they ate of the word ATE. When we do the numerical value for ATE, this is 5, 2, 1. This equals 8. So there is the 8. Their eyes were open. They were able to see the blue sky, blue, and the green earth, GREN. So this is 31, which is still 4, and this is 13, which is still 4. This is one is the sons and one is the daughters, the heavens and the earth. Okay. So we see the word generations. Generation, of course, we could say it's the I. And it's no wonder Matthew in chapter 9 of the book of Matthew also speaks of the eye. If he say, if thy eye be single, then thy whole life will be light, or your whole body will be light. So that is the thing. There is the other part of the generations. Christ came from a lineage of 14, of generations of 14. So we see how 14 transpires here again. Now, all these 14s, so it's that we are there, we are able to see through numerology how 14, meaning Eve, 5, 4, 5, 14, or through Christ. Christ comes to 5 too. The generations of Christ through that 14, which transpires in the story of Job. There we see that 9. So I'm just trying to show the connection in connecting the dots with Matthew, the first book of the New Testament, that equals 9. Matthew equals 9. Matt. H-E-W. Matthew equals 9. Job of the, so this is the first book. So it would be from 1 to 9, as in the word sacrifice, 1 to 9. Basically, Matthew was the tax collector, so he had all the jazz, he knew everything and what one was meant to be paying when they got to the inland revenue. He had all that knowledge, and hence he was one with numbers who would know about the genealogy of Christ because he dealt with numbers right here. So that's what we see, that pattern developing here. Then we have the story of not only that, he knew about Christ coming from a lineage of 14. 1 plus 4 is 5. There was the depiction of Mother Eve coming through that learning here. Okay. Then we have the story of Job, which equals 9. But also, there's another thing that we need to pay attention to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so there's 7 letters here that shows 1, meaning the first one chapter, because when we do 1, this is 5, 5, 6. So this is 16. 1 plus 6 equals 7. So this is the first book. This is 1. Matthew is trying to tell us something about that oneness here. And of course, with the 2 5s here, with that W, that which forms that 3, this is E, this is M, and this is W. So with that fan, Matthew has been trying to teach us the beauty of that, of this story of connecting the dots. Okay, and now Job has 3 letters to Job, so 3 threes are 9. Hence, we see how that vibration comes here. We see how this beautiful vibration. So another thing that just came to mind was with the 9 in Matthew, if we were to do, I was thinking of 3 sevens, 21, 2 plus 1, but just keep this simple. Okay, now we also learn about, so there Matthew was giving the story about the 14th generation, which equals 5, and in Job we have about his daughters being 14, and when we add 14 together, that equals 5. And in fact, when we also do, this is a wonderful thing, when we do the numerical value for the word 14, that's another thing. It's one of the most powerful ones that we've had so far. So the sons were 4, the daughters were 4, that form 8, and which coincide with when Eve ate of the fruit. So we see that Job went through a a rapture, we could say, just like it was said with the story of Eve. But it's really for us to open our eyes to understand the essence of that story, the essence of the moral of the story, that their eyes were open. They were able to see pain, they were able to see joy, they were able to see gladness, they were able to empathize. They were at that position of 5 in the middle. Their eyes were open to everything. Okay, and so there's the 14. Let's do the word 14. Fourteen. And this has to be for me one of the most powerful numbers. So this is 6, 6, 3, 3, 2, 5, 5, 5. Again, all these 5s, I get very excited. So this is 4 5s, 20, 29, 35. So this is 35. Okay. In fact, I thought it was 14. Okay, let's do this again. 5, 10, because I've got it on there, yes. 5, 10, 15. Oh, I've seen what I have done. It's always good to double check. Okay, so this is 9 and not 3. Okay, so, okay, 15, 16, 17. Let's go 17 here. And this is 12 and 12, 24. 24. So 7 plus 4 is 11, and 1 plus 2, 3, and 1, 4. So this is 41. Here in 14, this is really one of the most magical numbers I have worked with. With 14 is the reverse of 14 is actually, this is 41. And so it's the mirror aspect. And that's exactly what has happened with the daughters and the sons when we have done even the numerical values for daughters and sons. We see that they both come to 4 in the end. One was 13, and I don't quite clearly remember the other, but we see the number 4 transpired. Here we see number 5. So here we see the 5 with Job. Here we see the 5 where Matthew speaks of the generations of 14 with Christ. And there we see, of course, when we add 1 plus 4, 5, we see the word Christ comes to 5. We see the word Eve comes to 5. So there we see how important it is for us to pay attention to the numbers and to see so how significant is the number 5. And it really shows up in the stories. It shows up in the stories. We need to open our third eye to understand the dynamic of the new state or any of these patterns that we are journeying on. I hope you have found this interesting, and it seemed like I may have to explore a bit more on this because it really does present a lot to work with, particularly, of course, as I say, the word generation as well, which equals 9, and hence Matthew would be the one giving Matthew, meaning we need to understand that names are a function. They give a function, like Emmett Fox says. Nothing comes into your consciousness unless it finds something like itself on which to attach itself to. And that's what happens here with that 9. 9 with that vibration of, we could see how Matthew was being the tax collector with the Inland Revenue. This is really something. We can also see how the number 3 with Job, 3 letters in Job, has that free vibration which forms that 8, that beautiful flower. Of course, it is 8 and the 8 petals, but the eye or the eye hair, it's also an 8, because when we do the numerical value for the word I, EYE, it equals 17. It equals 17. 1 plus 7 equals 8. So we see how the beautiful workings of the scripture is. And it's no wonder there is so much confusion to some extent, but it's up to us to take the initiative. The initiative, like Mother Eve, open our eyes and initiate another way of seeing something. If it does not work one way, like my son would say, try the other. Okay, thank you. I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope you have found this fun. And do like and subscribe. Leave your comments. And whether you have anything you feel that is in connection with this or something we could explore, as long as we can grow together, that is what we're about, and loving each other. Okay, thank you. Thanks for watching. And please remember that we are growing and we are planting new seeds. So be a field and stay ignited. Namaste. Spill over with love.